Good afternoon, Dragon Nation. Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Today, I'm joined by head girls basketball coach, Mr. John Buchanan. We're going to talk a little bit about wrapping up the season with him, getting ready for tournament. You know, the tournament profiles are due tonight. Kind of maybe what he thinks the tournament's going to look like. We're also going to talk a little bit of wrestling. You know, I'm going to kind of put you out on a limb here. I know you're not a huge wrestling person, probably don't know a lot about it, but you know, you and I both been around quite a bit. WSAZ tournament coming up for the wrestling this weekend. You know, as a coach and being a teacher and stuff, kind of what are your thoughts on getting ready for such a big event that's held over there in Huntington?
You know, I know they always look forward to that WSAZ event. Yeah. My wife and I had actually kind of tossed around the idea about, like, you know, if a couple of our guys are still wrestling on Saturday, potentially going over to see, like, some of the championship rounds. But, I mean, there, too, it is just still a regular season contest, albeit a big one. I think you kind of tell your guys, like, hey, you know, this is a opportunity to compete against really, like, high-level guys, whether it's district guys or regional guys. Yeah. Guys that they're going to see, you know, in the tournament. And I think that they should just look at it as an opportunity to, like, you know, wrestle against, like, tournament-type atmosphere a month before the tournament starts, or however many weeks they got before the tournament starts.
Yeah, I saw WSAZ had kind of released some early seedings earlier in the week. First time ever that I know Fairland's had 3 guys already seeded going in. Usually they got to wrestle to get to a certain seed. C.J. Graham in the lightweight, I know he was in the top 4 seeding. Will Calico in his weight class was in the top 10. And Quentin Kermeans in the top 10, which means they feel like those guys are going to make it to Saturday and make it to the finals. Again, it's a huge event over there, one of the biggest, I believe they call it on the East Coast. There's teams from Pennsylvania, from Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. Huge event. Again, that starts Friday afternoon. High school starts a little bit early Friday, and then middle school weighs in about 5:15. I believe high school weighs in about 11. And then they'll start early, wrestle all day Friday evening, and then the finals on Saturday. Coach, as we kind of shift gears a little bit, you know, got a big win over Cincinnati Country Day, a top 10 program in D3 that's had some close games with teams like Purcell Marion. Maybe didn't shoot the ball well, but we still did what we had to do and got a good victory. Let's talk a little bit about that down
Yeah, it was a fantastic win for us. Like you said, we shot 3 of 27 from 3, so we really, I mean, I kind of looked at the bench a couple times. I was like, man, we have to make one eventually, you know, and we really didn't make very many of them. But defensively, I thought we were really good the whole day. Our kids were really locked in and really defended and rebounded really well. We had 1 turnover in the second half. So, like, offensively, even though we didn't shoot the ball well, we got shots. I thought our transition game was really strong. So it was a fantastic win. Like you said, a team that, you know, we had watched film of 3 or 4 times, and we're like, man, you know, these guys are really good. Reminded us a lot of us. Press the whole time, run, shoot a lot of threes. I mean, they were really kind of a carbon copy of, like, what we kind of feel like we probably look like to other teams. And a big part of it was turnovers. I think they turned the ball over 22 times. We only turned it over like 11 or 12 times. So that was a big part of it. I thought, like I said, our transition game and just ultimately our defense. Our defense was fantastic. And if we can defend like that, you know, I think we could have a chance to be, like, really go really far in the tournament.
I agree. On the last show, we talked about this was kind of the gauntlet part of your schedule. You know, you had Cincinnati Country Day coming up. You had Portsmouth. Portsmouth was here Thursday night. We had a pregame show, and we talked to you a little bit about some things. You talked about you felt like the pressure, you could kind of control the game. And through the first quarter, you know, you guys are pretty neck and neck. I seen you kind of step up the pressure a little bit, and you were able to pull away. And got a very convincing win against a good, young Portsmouth team here. Talk about that victory a little bit.
You know, like you said, we wanted to really run the floor against them and kind of and continue our pressure. You know, like, we felt like their bench was pretty short. Amy didn't want to play many more than her starting 5. So our goal was to really, you know, like, utilize our bench, utilize our pressure, try to get into our running game, and understand that's going to have a cumulative effect, you know, as the game wears on. And I think you saw that, you know, as we shot a lot of uncontested layups, and our kids, you know, defended at a high level because they got 2 really, really special scorers on that team. And you know, I thought we did a pretty good job of limiting it to 1 shot too. You know, like, whenever it's demoralizing for your team. You come down, you're guarding a really good player, and she shoots and misses, and then you give up an offensive rebound, and then you got to go do it again.
Right.
And that's hard, So I thought we did a really good job of, like, once we forced a hard shot, and we rebounded the misses, so we didn't have to be in that situation to where, like, kind of you mentally get broke in that spot, like trying to guard that kid again. So.
And I felt like you did a great job of running the two girls off the line, running Allen and running Reed off the line, not giving them open looks.
Yeah.
So defensively, I felt like you did a good job there.
Yeah.
Go to Gallipolis this past Monday night. Issa Talaferro, career high, game high, 18 points. I didn't have the opportunity to get up and watch that game. I was taking care of Ellison and some basketball practice here with her. So, the score was kind of lopsided, but I know you had some bright moments and was very happy with some way some girls played.
Well, obviously, Issa, was 8 of 8. She was perfect from the field. A lot of those were layups. But credit to her for get out on the break and running, and credit to her teammates for throwing her the basketball while, like, looking up and kind of, like, seeing the floor. And like I said, she did a great job. Her first 2 shots were 3-point shots, made those 2, and I think the next 6 were actually layups. But again, a credit to her for, getting out and running and doing those things. And but we really, Cameron Barnett's had 9 or 10 points and, like, 5 steals in the first quarter. So, she helped us get off to a really good start. Bree and Kylie made some shots there in the first half. So I thought we really came in with the right mindset. Like, you can kind of come into a game where you're the clear favorite and kind of have a letdown in your effort. And I didn't think we did. I thought we did a good job. Like, really competed hard. And we talk about giving people a Fairland effort. Like, you're supposed to be whatever you're supposed to be. Well, you want to give people that effort. That's how you respect your opponent the best you can is give them everything you got. If you don't, then that shows a lack of respect, in my opinion.
Yeah. And your kids responded well. I kind of put you in a bad situation by not telling you there was 4 quarters of JV. Your kids are kind of sitting there in their street clothes, and, oh, man, now we got to go play. So your kids responded well to that. The one thing, Coach, we've talked about all year long, whether it was Portsmouth, it was Cincinnati Country Day, whether it's been Margarita, any of those teams, I think your assistant coaches, myself, Killer, JR, have been telling you early in the game, keep running.
Yeah,
Teams are sucking air. So for you to be able to have the 8, 9 girls that you're playing right now, to have that luxury, something that you've never really had.
Yeah.
You've always had, maybe a good 6-man, 7th, 8th were very productive, but not what they are now. How has that been such a luxury this year?
I think, first of all, we committed to doing this in the summer, and we committed to this system of trying to pressure, trying to run, rotating players, and I think, first of all, like, it was a philosophy change for us. Not that we don't normally run the floor, not that we don't normally shoot a lot of perimeter shots, but just the substituting was something that we had never done. Last year, we only subbed twice in the district tournament, in 2 district games. We only subbed twice. We didn't sub in the district semifinal, and we probably wouldn't have subbed in the district final had Cameron not been a little bit under the weather.
Right.
So, so obviously that was a philosophy change for us, but it was, it was we had to do it. We have really good players, and, we don't want to limit their opportunities. They're going to add to what we are, so it's been great. Our kids have been really good about it too. We had talked to Tommy and Bree specifically before the season. 2 kids that averaged 16 points a game, high 16, close to 17 a game last year, and said, hey, your shot attempts are going to go down, your playing time's going to go down, your scoring average might go down, which both of them has, but understand that we're going to be better because of that. And they never, said a cross word about that. They've been super accepting, and that's the biggest thing. You have to have buy-in. We've had that. We've been really fortunate. We had Emily Chapman here as a freshman that we brought off the bench as a freshman. We had a solid senior point guard that year in Taylor Staten, but obviously Emily's a Division I starting point guard now, so obviously she was good enough to start not just at point guard but other spots as a freshman, and she was super accepting. Her family was super accepting of like, hey, like, we understand what's happening here, and you know that team goes to the state tournament, and that's a big part of it because like people are willing to accept their roles.
Yeah, and I think you've done a great job of getting those kids to accept those roles. You mentioned 2 players there. We want to kind of touch on both of them. Coming into the Portsmouth game, Bree's 28 away from 1,000. We're before the game, we're presenting her with her 500th career rebound, hoping that she gets to 1,000. Not necessarily really plan. I wasn't planning on it.
Right.
I didn't have anything.
I mean, she had needed 29 points.
Right. So and then at halftime, I'm scrambling, which was a good scramble. I was happy to be doing.
Right.
I'm scrambling around. All right, we're 5 away. We've got to get 5 more points to get to 1,000. So Bree, again, congratulations. She's become the 13th player in school history on the female side to reach 1,000. She's playing with Tommy Hinkle, who's 1,250 points or so right now where she's at.
It's not a whole lot of schools, you know, that have 2,000-point scores, and both those girls did it in their junior years.
Right.
You know, and there's other kids on this team that are going to score 1,000 points eventually in their career. So it just speaks to the talent we have. I mean, we're really fortunate to have, you know, the kids that we have, and I mean, I don't take it for granted. I understand how blessed I am as a coach to have, you know, players that we do.
And I think the one thing I want to touch on, even though it's an individual honor and we're all about team and team honors and everything, how special is it? You know, I know you've had, I believe, Tara Stapleton is a 1,000-point scorer. I know Emily Chapman is a 1,000-point scorer. Tommy is a 1,000-point. Now Bree. Am I missing?
I think that's the only 4 I've coached. Yeah.
How special is that to be able to present them that basketball, their 1,000-point?
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, and we're like I said, super fortunate to like be in this position to coach players of that caliber. And but like you said, I mean, there's a lot, like just the fact that like you have to have good teammates to make that happen, you know. And anybody that plays against us, I mean, like knows that we never ran a system that's dominant to one kid.
Right.
You know, maybe more with Emily than anybody, and like that was just necessity from a standpoint of like she was so good with the basketball. She was so much better than the rest of her teammates with the basketball. Not that her teammates weren't good, but she was, again, she's a Division I point guard. But she was as good a passer as we ever had. You know, I mean, she was more than willing to pass the basketball. So, yeah, it's wonderful to have that, and especially gratifying to have it from a standpoint of like we don't really play like that. You know, we don't set a million ball screens for one kid. You know, we don't run a million actions for one kid. You know, like it would be rare for any individual on our team to get more than 2 or 3 play calls a quarter from us. You know, any one certain player. Whereas lots of these kids, you know, that score all these points, I mean, the whole thing is run like it's just for them, it's them, it's them. And again, a lot of that might have to do with the fact they don't have as good of teammates as what Tommy and Bree have, or Tara and Emily had. But that's just kind of been our philosophy as far as how to play the game and how to make ourselves dangerous. And I'm just really glad for those kids to be able to experience, you know, having opportunity to score 1,000 points.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like you said, you look at a 1,000-point score, and they're a 19 or 20-point average, and the rest of their teammates 5, 4, 3. You know, you look at across your board when I was doing stats the other night for graphics, we were from 12.9. Your starters were from about 12.9 to 9.5. You know, you had 5, 6 kids in that, which is just great. They're sharing the ball. All of them have 2, 2.5, 3 assists a game, so that's great. Coach, as we kind of shift gears here, we've got the tournament draw coming up. Profiles are due midnight tonight, and then we're going to vote through Sunday. Probably the last year, quite possibly the last year, we're going to kind of see it run this way. Not that saying it is broken, but I do like kind of maybe what we're going to. There's 18 teams in your section. We're in a super sectional now. We've got teams like Sheridan, Marietta, Warren, Union Odo, New Lexington, Jackson, Waverly, Athens. You know, we got a lot of competition, a lot of good teams in those brackets. I mean, you know, I feel like we're in the top 2 for sure. More than likely, we're probably going to get a 1 seed, hopefully. How do you feel, you know, looking at that sectional draw or sectional teams, how do you feel about this?
Well, I can tell you this, like, I think, you know, people have asked me all year long, you know, moving up to D2, how's it going to be different? Moving up to D2, how's it going to be different? Well, like your district first game district is going to be really good. I mean, I'm looking at this list that was printed out here as far as just like the RPIs,
Right.
and put the teams on the bracket based off the RPIs, and Waverly as the 11.
Yeah.
You know, Waverly is a team that beat Portsmouth West. Portsmouth West only lost on the season is Waverly. Waverly played Wheelersburg to a 3-point game or 5-point game or something like that at Waverly like a couple weeks ago. Waverly's a solid team.
Right.
You know, Waverly's a good team, and we're talking that they might be not in the top half of this section. You know, so so you're looking at your first district game is going to be, you know, you're going to have to play. Like
Right.
you've really got to play somebody good, and it's going to be really hard. You know, in the past, you know, when you get a 1 seed, you kind of look and you're like, well, we can kind of maybe avoid here, avoid there, and you know, you kind of maybe even have an easy district semifinal game, and then your final game is a little tougher, you know. And we've experienced those years, you know, when we had Tara, you know, like we had years where we kind of, you know, walked to the regional, so
Right.
to speak. And you know, this year is not going to be like that. I mean, there's quality up and down this sheet.
Yeah. I mean, you know, all 18 of them, you know, like you said earlier, 12, 13 of them are good ball clubs.
Yeah.
A little bit different route for us this year. You know, the majority is only going to be playing 1 game in the sectional. It looks like there's only going to be 4 teams play 2 games in the sectional. So if you're the higher seed, you're going to host a sectional. So we'll more than likely Fairland will be, unless something absolutely asinine, crazy happens, we'll be hosting a sectional final game here.
Yeah.
Then our districts, we're used to going to Waverly. Well, this year it's either going to be Piketon or Logan, depending on seeding and who's playing and some geographical stuff in the district semis. District finals then moves to Chillicothe or Richmondale Southeastern High School. They're in Chillicothe. Then if we're lucky enough to make it to the regionals, then we got to go to Zanesville twice.
Right.
So completely different trips than we're used to making. New faces. You know, we saw New Lex last year in the district semis, correct?
Yep.
You know,
And they returned their better players.
right. They returned a lot of kids. You know, you've played Jackson in the past. You've scrimmaged Jackson. Guy is in our league. Sheridan, we have a common opponent in John Glenn. Union Odo, we know some things about them. Coach Miller's been down here to your shootout a couple times. I know you guys are good friends.
Yeah.
So there's some familiarity to it, but there's still a lot of unknowns.
Oh yeah, I mean, like for instance, you know, Circleville sitting there at 7.
Right.
I don't know anything about Circleville. I mean, I know where Circleville is. I know they have a new city barbecue
Yeah,
that
that's
I like
right.
to
Hey.
stop at. I
Yeah.
like that. But I don't know anything about. I've talked to a couple coaches, tell me like about them, you know, a little bit, but I really don't know much about Circleville. Miami Trace, I used to know a lot about Miami Trace. Miami Trace and their boys coach now used to be one of my good friends, and he's now on the boys side, so I don't really know necessarily much about their personnel. Fairfield Union, I know our old principal, Chad Belville's there as a superintendent, and maybe he has some other people. I don't know anything about their.
one of your
Kelsey
former-
Warnock is on the staff, but I don't really know anything about their team. You know, so I mean, there's 3 right there that you know that I don't really know anything about at all.
Right.
You know, I really don't know any of their personnel, anything what they do. You know, like who they're. I mean, really even necessarily like who their coach is. I mean, like on a first name basis. You know, so. And that's rare for me. I mean, I know most every coach in Southern Ohio, you know, and this is uncharted territory for us a little bit.
And it's kind of odd that we can sit here and say this, but the defending state representatives in the last couple of years, Sheridan in our sectional, Vinton County kind of walked to the state tournament a few years ago. They're in our sectional. So, I mean, you know, there's some teams here that have played some quality basketball over the last few
Union
years.
and Sheridan Sheridan and Warren were regional final last year.
Yep.
That was the regional finals last year. Circleville was a regional final 3 years ago. Miami Trace made a state 5 years ago. I mean, the list, like you said, Vinton County State Finals 3 years ago. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, how like quality that the lineup is.
Yeah, it is. Excited to see. That'll be released sometime around 3 o'clock on Sunday. We should know our matchups and how that bracket's going to go. We'll have that graphic for you next Wednesday to be able to put that bracket up there for you guys to see that. Coach, this coming week, tomorrow night, we go to Chesapeake. 6:30.
Yes.
We're going to say 6:30
6:30
tip-off.
tip, yeah.
Varsity only. Extremely tough place to play. The environment, and it's just, let's just face it, it's Fairland Chesapeake. It's a rivalry. It doesn't matter that we're whatever we are, 18-0 or 17-0 going into that game. You know, how is it this game? This game's different.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
I mean, you know, first of all, you say it's a tough place to play. A big part of it being a tough place to play is they have good players.
Right.
You know, so it wouldn't be as hard a place to play if they didn't have good players, but they do have some good players. So that makes it tough. Chris does a really good job. He makes it tough. So, I mean, just take those things to start, like good players, good coaches, that makes it tough. And like you said, I mean, like there's always so much build up around Fairland Chesapeake and the rivalry behind it. And I mean, this game will be no different. You know, I think we both have a lot to play for. I mean, for example, us, you know, like, I mean, I told our kids we have a couple things to play for. You know, we have opportunity to, you know, win the OVC title. And we're ranked third in the AP poll right now, and the two teams ranked ahead of us lost this week.
Right.
So we have potential to get the #1 ranking that I know we've never had.
Right.
You know, I don't know if our boys ever had a #1 ranking, but I know that our girls have never had a #1 ranking. Not that rankings mean anything, but just the recognition of, hey, like you're the #1 team in the state of Ohio. So we have some really cool things to have an opportunity to play for. So. But yeah, it really is always a hard place to play, and we'll have to be really laser focused tomorrow.
I agree. Kind of as we wrap things up here, you know, you're also over our youth league basketball. Those things are starting to wrap up, and we're starting to get into kind of postseason stuff for them with all-stars and some different things. Anybody that's, and I know there's hundreds of kids, and we don't want to leave kids out, but is there anything that's kind of really stood out that you would like to brag on? I know Les and Ronnie are you know, outstanding help to you, both Holly and Ashley. Is there anything going on there that you'd like for people?
Well, I mean, again, you know, as the head basketball coach of basically the whole thing, the high school team, but I'm also doing that. I get all the credit about, like, well, you know, John does this and John,
right.
Like, there's so many people that, like, it wouldn't work if it wasn't for them, you know, and I mean, take a guy like Adam Hager that he's coaching our 5th grade All-Star team, but he's been running skills at the West on Monday nights. And he volunteered to do that. He's like, hey, coach, you know, like here's an opportunity. You know what? I was like, absolutely, you know, go and run with that. I mean, he's a great example of somebody that, you know, that steps up and helps us out. I mean, we just have a number of people. Les's wife, Laura, I mean, like, she does so much for us. I mean, as far as, like, she's there every Saturday helping in concession, you know, helping at the door. We really have, like, I mean, it's not even our assistant coaches. I mean, our assistant coaches' families are
right.
involved too. So, again, when you're in my seat, you know, you get to, like, be talked about as you've done all these great things, and I appreciate that, but I also understand that, like, if it wasn't for, you know, all these families, and not just my families of people helping, but, you know, the families of the kids that are willing to come watch their kids and support our league and allow us to coach their kids. I mean, it's all a huge deal, and I mean, we're super thankful for this community and, you know, what we have here, and I really don't think there's anything like being a Dragon. I mean, it's just different.
It is different. And we've talked about that. We've had some transplants over the years. Todd Purtis, who's now up at Lake Erie College as a head coach, is doing some outstanding things. You know, one of the things I ask him, he goes, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's different here. Once you're part of the community, you understand that, and you're always a part of this community. Again, Les is kind of a transplant to us. Ronnie's a transplant to us. They fell in love. Those are great guys. You know, another person that we can't forget, and I can't say enough about, is Adam Alden and what he's done for you. You know, he's been with you from day one. Yeah. Great asset, JV coach, who has won some games and worked some miracles. And, you know, the reason you've won 200 and whatever it is now, 80 games or whatever, because he's getting kids ready for you.
Oh, I mean, you know, Adam is, like, again, his wife too. I mean, Davis hands-on, helps us out so much with the book, runs a stretch session for us every week. But Adam, I mean, like, you know, I wouldn't be anything without Adam. I mean, Adam's been there with me, like, since I started coaching, you know. And, I mean, all the credit in the world goes to him. And, I mean, I fully believe that if I stepped aside tomorrow and it would be seamless and there would not be like any, I mean, I'm just a part of it, and he could take it and run with it, and no questions asked. I mean, I feel that confident in like who he is, and we're just super fortunate to have a guy like. I mean, like nobody has a guy like him,
Right.
and we're very lucky.
And you're right, because most of the times you see those JV coaches, 2-3 years
Yeah.
you see a new guy,
Yeah.
2 or 3 years you
Yeah.
see a new guy. Coach, good luck to you guys tomorrow night. Opportunity for you to clinch, I believe we said your 10th OVC championship. That would be the most basketball I know for in-school history, more than what Carl York had. You're approaching some milestones on your own. Coach, good luck to you guys. You know, hopefully we see you in the winner's circle tomorrow night at Chesapeake. Again, 6:30, varsity only tip-off. And then the girls are going to kind of take a little break, usually we don't have a lot of time off.
Yeah.
We're going to take almost a week, we're going to take a week off. And technically not a week off. Don't get the girls all excited.
Yeah. Don't
They're
tell them
going to
that.
have a day or so maybe off, but for
Yeah.
the most part, no games for a week.
Right.
Dragon Nation, join us back here next Wednesday at about 3:15 or so for the Coach's Corner. And good evening.